You're not imagining it. He changes when you get closer. In the beginning, he was warm, attentive, present, and then something shifts. You open up a little more. You get more honest, you show more of yourself, and suddenly, he pulls back. Less messages, shorter replies, different tone. And now you're sitting there thinking, what did I do? Let me tell you something very clearly. You didn't do anything wrong, but something did change, and it wasn't random. When a woman starts getting emotionally closer, she usually does one thing unconsciously. She becomes more available, more emotionally open, more invested, more transparent. And that feels natural to her because closeness means safety. But for many men, closeness triggers something very different: pressure. Not because you're too much, not because you're wrong, but because when intimacy increases, expectations increase. And expectations activate fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of being needed, fear of responsibility, fear of losing freedom. Most men are not trained to handle emotional depth. They are trained to handle problems, tasks, performance. So when emotional intensity rises, they retreat to what they understand: distance. And here's the dangerous part. When he pulls away, your nervous system reacts. You start leaning forward. You text more. You clarify more. You try to fix the connection. And now the dynamic flips. You are chasing stability. He is escaping pressure. And the more you chase, the more he withdraws. Here's the truth no one says clearly. When a man pulls away, the worst thing you can do is move closer. Not because you should play games, but because emotional pursuit kills polarity. If he feels you tightening emotionally, he feels trapped, and attraction cannot survive inside pressure. So what should you actually do? Not disappear, not manipulate, not punish. You regulate yourself. You lean back, not as strategy, as strength. You stop trying to control the connection. You let him feel the space. You let him feel the absence of pressure. And something interesting happens. If his feelings are real, he steps forward. If they are weak, he fades out. Either way, you win, because you stop bleeding energy into uncertainty. The strongest position in any relationship is emotional steadiness. Not intensity, not constant reassurance, not overgiving. Steadiness. You don't panic when he shifts. You don't overreact. You don't collapse inward. You observe. You hold your center, and you allow the dynamic to reveal the truth. If he comes back with clarity and effort, you move forward consciously. If he stays distant, you don't beg for warmth. You choose yourself. And here's the real secret. When a woman stops chasing emotional security, she becomes emotionally magnetic. Because calm confidence is rare, and rare is powerful. There's something no one talks about. Not the burnout, not the anxiety, not even the exhaustion, but the moment when you realize you're not tired from work. You're tired from pretending that everything is fine, pretending that you are strong enough, pretending that you are not quietly falling apart. And the most dangerous part, no one sees it because you still function, you still wake up, you still answer messages, you still show up for people, you still smile at the right moments. But inside, something is cracking, not loudly, quietly. It's not drama, it's not collapse, it's erosion. And erosion is invisible. You don't explode, you fade. You start doubting your own reactions. You start minimizing your own feelings. You start telling yourself, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm just weak. Maybe everyone feels this way. But here is the brutal truth. You are not weak. You are overloaded. There is a difference. Weakness is inability. Overload is accumulation. And you have been accumulating for years. Unspoken resentment, unprocessed disappointment, silent compromises, the constant effort to be reasonable, the effort to not be too much, the effort to not be inconvenient. And that effort costs energy, massive energy. You don't notice it at first because you're capable, because you're intelligent, because you're resilient. But resilience without boundaries turns into self-abandonment. And self-abandonment feels like productivity. You tell yourself you're being mature. You tell yourself you're being patient. You tell yourself you're being understanding. But underneath that, there is anger. Not explosive anger, cold anger. The kind that sits in your chest at night. The kind that shows up when you are alone. The kind that whispers, "Why am I always the one adjusting?" And that question is dangerous because once you ask it, you cannot unask it. You begin to see patterns. You begin to notice how often you shrink, how often you soften your tone, how often you say it's okay when it's not. And something shifts. You don't become louder, you become aware. And awareness changes everything because once you see the imbalance, you can't go back to pretending it doesn't exist. And that's the real turning point. Not when you explode, not when you leave, not when you scream, but when you quietly decide, I don't want to live like this anymore. Not dramatically, not impulsively, but clearly. You stop negotiating your own worth. You stop justifying your pain. You stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from misunderstanding you. And here is where most people get scared, because when you stop shrinking, the dynamics change. Some people feel uncomfortable. Some conversations become tense. Some relationships feel different. And you think, maybe I should go back. Maybe I was easier before. But easier for whom? For you or for everyone else? Growth is not loud. It is subtle. It is the decision to pause before saying yes. It is the decision to sit with discomfort instead of fixing everything immediately. It is the decision to allow someone to be disappointed instead of betraying yourself again. That is power, not control, not dominance, power. And power does not need to shout. It needs to stand still. And maybe right now you are in that exact space. Not broken, not dramatic, just done pretending. And that is not the end. That is the beginning of a different version of you, one that doesn't disappear just to keep the peace. And here is the part most people never say out loud. The moment she stops begging to be chosen, she realizes something terrifying. She doesn't even know who she is without trying to be wanted. Not by him, not by them, not by anyone. Because for years, her value was measured by reaction, attention, approval, desire. And now, silence. So the real question is not, why didn't they choose me? The real question is, who am I when I stop performing for love? And that's where the next chapter begins. Because in the next episode, we're going somewhere deeper. Not into relationships, into identity, into the space where a woman rebuilds herself without needing to be seen. And that is far more dangerous.